Revealed, the touching journey of a discarded innovator who changed a $3 million tech investment forever. Jake Sullivan stood frozen in the dim light of the old auto repair shop, the scent of oil grounding him even as fresh ideas churned in his mind. The very walls echoed with his family's legacy, yet he could feel the pulse of a different dream, one that thrummed with the beat of innovation. Disassembling imagination and reassembling steel, he felt more at home with software than with wrenches and grease. But small-town loyalty weighed heavy on his heart. Would he betray his blood for a chance to carve his own niche in the ever-evolving auto industry? Running Sullivan's auto repair wasn't just a job, it was a birthright, a lifelong sentence wrapped tightly in familial obligations. He relived countless childhood afternoons as his father taught him the importance of the family trade, lauding intuition over technology. Most days, Jake suppressed the doubt that nagged at him. Was he merely a pariah, chasing a whimsical pipe dream? Meanwhile, the once bustling repair shop echoed with memories of better days, now overshadowed by a struggling economy and a generational resistance to the digital wave. As Jake diligently dusted off years of neglect, his mind drifted back to the flurry of excitement he felt just weeks before when he met an old college mentor at a local cafe. He hadn't intended to get sidetracked from balancing the shop's books, but there had been something electric in their brief exchange about a $3 million tech investment competition, a chance to showcase his neglected app that could redefine vehicle maintenance. The weight of his decision loomed over him now, heavy and suffocating. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The mere thought of competing sent shivers through him. What would his father say if he learned of Jake's intentions to abandon the family business for an app? Anger and disappointment filled the air like thick smoke. How could Jake dare to disrupt a legacy built on sweat and patience? Yet, amidst the clutter of tools and tired machinery, he felt a flicker of defiance. Jake's mind raced in circles, overwhelmed with visions of pride and shame intertwining. What if he succeeded? Would his father find a way to see the wisdom behind his aspirations? Or would he brand Jake a traitor? As he pushed through the clutter, a half-forgotten prototype beckoned, a tangible remnant of failed dreams. Instead of binning it, he felt a sense of determination surge within him. This was his chance. Yet as anticipation vibrated through him, he couldn't shake the impending dread that the very essence of his family's legacy might be threatened, including the bond with his father that had defined him. Jake's heart raced. He could revolutionize the auto world, but at what cost? Just as he was ready to take his first step, pale echoes of gut-wrenching uncertainty held him firm. Would the past let him bear the weight of his family's expectations, or would his desire to break free lead to family ruin? The answer loomed like a shadow, ready to consume him whole. The morning sun filtered through the grimy windows of the shop, casting long shadows over Jake's cluttered workspace. He stood, silhouetted against the light, his racing thoughts clamoring for attention. Determination pulsed within him, but the price of pursuing his vision was becoming increasingly evident. What did it mean to truly innovate? For Jake, the weight of legacy bore down upon him. Every time he envisioned his app revolutionizing the industry, he also saw his father's disappointed gaze, the resilience of their family echoes warning him to think carefully. No longer was he a naive dreamer. He faced a crossroads steeped in emotional complexity. With each passing hour, the excitement of potential success battled against the dread of perceived betrayal. Memories flooded back, moments of apprenticeship under his father's watchful eye, those evenings spent testing the limits of machined parts in their small garage. They had built something extraordinary together, yet the changing times demanded evolution, something Jake's father staunchly resisted. He began to lay out plans for his app in front of him on a makeshift workbench. The idea formed not only as a vehicle maintenance solution but as a bridge between old-world craftsmanship and the digital future. Yet the thought of its potential success felt tied to a knife's edge. One slip in his execution could slice through the very fabric of his family's pride. Jake grabbed a pen and began sketching specifications, formulations of algorithms that could predict issues before they arose. As he scribbled notes, a flurry of self-doubt swept through him. What if he failed? What if the world turned against him, labeling him reckless? The risks weighed heavier than the tools that surrounded him. A sound snapped Jake from his spiral. It was the unmistakable rumble of his father's old truck pulling into the garage. Panic ensued. Would he ask about the shop? Would he sense the stirring of change within his son?
Jake.
His father's voice boomed, carving through Jake's thoughts, demanding attention. Dad, I'm just Jake halted, searching for a justification. What could he say about dreams woven into electric blueprints without sounding juvenile? I'm reworking some of the waste here, he replied, deflecting. Waste? Looks like a lot of junk to me, his father chuckled, his eyes roving over the clutter. The vibe shifted. Jake felt a flicker of hope. If he could open a dialogue, maybe he could coax his father into understanding. I've been thinking a lot about the future of the shop, Dad. This place, our legacy, it's at a turning point. His father's expression hardened. You're not talking about changing the way we do things, are you? This business has always been about hard work, not some tech fantasy. Jake's heart raced. His time had come. Would he retreat or stand firm? But that hard work can be more efficient. I have this app that can help customers keep track of their car's maintenance needs and even alert them when issues arise. It could change everything. Change isn't the answer, Jake. Tradition is what keeps us grounded. His father's tone echoed the weight of generations. Anger mingled with fear in Jake's chest, igniting determination within him. Perhaps, in this direct confrontation with his father, he might discover the deeper truths of his passion and purpose. Maybe it's time to rethink what grounded means, Jake replied, conviction leveraging his voice. But the tenderness of loyalty and the fierce pull of ambition waged war inside him. Could he win a battle that threatened the love and history they shared? The door to the future cracked open, revealing the storm outside. Would he dare to walk through it? With one last glance at his old prototype before Daddy left the garage, a whirlwind of emotions surged from within. The time had come to face his father, to expose his own dreams, amidst the lurking shadows of fear. What would it take to bridge the chasm between them and allow innovation to flourish within the family legacy? The air hung thick with tension as Jake's father turned away, his posture rigid. For a moment, the silence in the garage was deafening, each tool and scrap of metal an echo of Jake's uncertain resolve. The flickering fluorescent light above added to the unsteady atmosphere, illuminating the shadows lurking in every corner, metaphorically reflecting Jake's inner turmoil. Do you know what your grandfather sacrificed to keep this business running? His father's voice cut through the stillness, more of a statement than a question. Jake's stomach nodded at the reference, a reminder of the lineage that weighed heavily upon him. He knew the story all too well, the long hours and sleepless nights that had taken a toll on family connections. Dad, I get that. But we can honor that sacrifice by evolving, not by standing still. Jake took a step closer, fueled by a mix of defiance and desperation. The creaking floorboards seemed to resonate with his heartbeat, each pulse pushing him to articulate his thoughts more clearly. This app isn't just a gadget. It's a lifeline for our customers. We can engage with them in a new way, tie them into this place, create a community online. Community? His father scoffed, disbelief etched on his face. What does that even mean anymore? Jake hesitated, the depths of his longing beginning to bleed into his voice. It means we foster connections, Dad. We're not just repairing cars. We're building relationships. What I'm proposing isn't a rejection of our past but a tool for it. His father's brows knitted tightly as he crossed his arms over his chest. The contest of wills was palpable. It felt as though every second stretched into eternity. Would this be the moment where he lost his father's approval entirely, or just the beginning of transformation? Look, Jake said finally, forcing himself to calm his racing thoughts. What if you tried the app? Just let me show you how it works. I could set it up on one of the older cars in the shop, the ones we usually let sit on the lot. It couldn't hurt, right? Just a small experiment. Tentatively, he added, you could guide me through, share your insights, and we could take this journey together. A flicker of something curiosity, perhaps crossed his father's face. I don't see where this is going, Jake. We're mechanics, not coders. But we are, Jake countered, his passion igniting the intensity of his words. We know machines, we understand systems. What I'm after is just another way to enhance what we already do. Imagine combining our knowledge with technology. We could create a standards manual, an archive of repairs linked directly to people's cars through this app. It could help us understand patterns, what breaks often, what we might overlook. Jake saw his father's skepticism waver slightly, the foundations of tradition visibly cracking. The realization washed over him a notion that perhaps the years spent in the shop hadn't dulled his father's inventive spirit, but had merely obscured it under layers of rust. Just promise me you'll think about it, Jake pressed, giving voice to a part of him he hadn't dared articulate until now. I need you on this, Dad. We can make something great together. The silence that followed felt less hostile and more contemplative. Jake could almost hear the gears in his father's mind turning, soft clicks of potential collisions. Then, without warning, his father broke the gaze, shifting toward the back wall. Engulfed in thought, Jake's heart raced, wondering if he'd ignited a spark or simply added fuel to a stubborn flame. As the evening sun dipped low, filtering through dusty windows, casting lingering shadows on his father's face, Jake could only await the verdict, feeling his future suspended in the air between them. Would his father relent, allowing innovation to seep into the fabric of their family legacy, or would they remain bound to the past? Just as the tension reached an unbearable peak, Jake caught a glimpse of an old blueprint hanging askew on the wall, the original designs for their family business. The realization struck him hard. The old was not just worth preserving, but deserving of reimagining. What if he could use this moment to inspire a reawakening in his father? With renewed determination, he took a deep breath, ready to dive deeper into the conversation, ready to face the uncertainties still nagging at him. What new revelations could come from this unexpected dialogue? As they stood amidst the clamor of their tools and dreams, Jake recognized that the next chapter awaited them. The time had come to find out if compromise could literally reshape their world or shatter the past entirely. The weight of his father's hesitation hung heavily in the air, each moment stretching into an eternity of unspoken words and unaddressed fears. Jake felt a rush of emotions, hope, anxiety, and a burning need to push past this barrier. He stepped closer, his palms clammy, yet determined. What if we just try one small thing together? He pressed. His father shifted slightly, rubbing the back of his neck, as if releasing the tension coiled there. Jake seized the moment. Let us test the app on the old Mustang, the one with the busted ignition. It would be a low-stakes gamble, and it could give us crucial insight. Insight? His father muttered, his tone skeptical, yet not as dismissive. Yes. Just think about it. We could see how customers interact with the app. If it clicks, we can build on it. If it doesn't, then at least we didn't risk anything we can't afford to lose. Each word spilled from Jake, fueled by desperation and a burgeoning vision for the future. We can find out if this tech really enhances what we do. You can teach me the practical aspects while I handle the coding. It's perfect synergy. His father turned, finally meeting Jake's gaze. The earlier defiance in his eyes shifted to a contemplative sparkle that momentarily startled Jake. And if it fails? Then it fails, Jake replied, his heart pounding. But we can't afford to sit idle, can we? If this business means anything to us, we need to adapt. It might just open doors we can't even see yet. Silence reigned again, but this time it felt like a fertile ground for new ideas rather than a battleground of old ones. Jake watched carefully, dissecting every fleeting expression on his father's face, seeking clues to where his thoughts were wandering. With each passing second, he felt the urge to push, But he also recognized the risk of overwhelming his father and pushing him further away. "You put a lot of faith into this app," his father finally said, his voice low, almost contemplative. "It's not just an app, it's our future. It's about evolving our identity as mechanics into something more, something that speaks to the new generation." Jake softened his tone, choosing his words as delicately as a mechanic would maneuver around a fragile engine. "Trust me, Dad. I promise I won't dismiss everything you've built. But carrying it forward requires daring to see it differently." The tension that had coiled around them began to ease. Jake heard the sound of his father's resolve weakening just a notch, a crack in the fortress of tradition. What lay beyond it? A wave of excitement surged in him. He could imagine it, a modernized shop bustling with clients tracking repairs via their smartphones, a sense of community being nurtured not just between customers, but between generations. His father sighed deeply, a sound loaded with uncertainty. "It's not the change I'm afraid of," he admitted. "It's the unknown. What if we lose everything? What if we gain everything?" Jake countered, feeling a rush of conviction. "This business has to breathe, just like we do. We're not just living out our family's legacy, we're building it. We owe it to ourselves and to those who came before us to try." "I want to believe you," his father replied, the walls around his heart beginning to chip under the weight of the possibility. Jake felt hope blossom within him, a flower pushing through cracks in dry earth. "Then let us give it one shot. Together. I promise to integrate your wisdom with my ideas." As the evening wore on, Jake's anticipation built. They could stand on the precipice of transformation or plunge into the depths of resistance. The decision between them thrummed like a live wire, charged with both fear and exhilaration. Just as his father leaned against a workbench, the shadows from the overhead light casting lines across his face, Jake sensed the weight of a choice hovering. Would it be the catalyst they needed, or the moment they would shatter under the pressure of familial expectations? With a deep breath, Jake prepared to address the pivotal truth. "Just let me show you this app, and what it can do, Dad. The real test comes not from what we let go, but from what we choose to embrace." As they stood at that crossroads, the next decision rippled ahead, one that could define not just their family's legacy, but Jake's identity as a mechanic and innovator. What road would they choose? Jake awoke the next morning with a renewed sense of purpose, the weight of yesterday still resting heavily on his shoulders, but tempered by a glimmer of potential. He had spent countless nights tossing and turning, grappling with the interplay between innovation and tradition. The idea of testing the app on the Mustang felt like a pivot not just in their business, but also in his growing sense of self. Sitting at the kitchen table, he scribbled down ideas for the features he wanted to develop. The closer he looked at the project, the more he realized it wasn't merely a means to an end. This app represented a vision, a way to meld his father's mechanical expertise with his own tech savviness. The thought that their identities could intertwine made Jake feel less like a ghost haunting a fading legacy and more like an architect building a vibrant future. His phone chimed, breaking his concentration. It was a message from Leah, a friend from school who had a flair for design. "Thought about your app. Let us brainstorm some UI ideas," she wrote, sparking another wave of inspiration. It wasn't just his father. Jake wanted the voices of his peers, the ones accustomed to technology and eager to push boundaries, mingling with generational techniques. He replied eagerly, "Absolutely. How about we meet at the shop later today? I want to show you what I've coded so far." The day rolled on, filled with anticipation. Jake felt every moment heat up like the engines in the shop. It was exhilarating and nerve-wracking all at once. When he arrived at the shop, the smell of oil and metal greeted him, wrapping around him like a childhood blanket. He found his father already engrossed in the day's repairs, a testament to years spent in this haven of mechanical wonders. "Ready?" Jake asked, his voice laced with excitement. His father swung away from the workbench, a wrench still in hand, but his eyes portrayed a curiosity that hadn't been there before. "Let us see what you've cooked up." As Jake unfolded his vision, walking his father through the app prototype, he could feel the room pulse with possibility. "This can help us track customer interactions and feedback real-time. Think of it as a bridge from old-school methods to an online presence. His father's brow furrowed as he processed the information. It looks good, but how does it fit with what we do? We've always relied on hands-on work and face-to-face communication. It enhances that experience. When customers can see live updates on their cars, they're more invested. They'll trust us more, Jake explained, his voice gaining confidence. But just as rapidly as excitement had filled the air, doubt began to seep back in. What if they start relying too much on this app and stop coming in for the personal touch? Then we remind them both in person and through their phones that this isn't just about machines. It's about service, Jake assured, working through his father's skepticism with each argument. In that moment, Jake realized something critical. He wasn't just fighting for the app, he was showcasing a new way to engage with customers that aligned with his father's values, bridging the gap between legacy and innovation. At sunset, Leah arrived, her creative energy sparkly and infectious. Jake introduced her to his father, each man's hesitance slightly softened by Leah's enthusiasm. As they discussed design ideas, Jake felt a sense of collaboration unfolding. Perhaps he wasn't solely in this with his father. He had allies, people who could contribute to the reshaping of their shared future. But amidst all this burgeoning hope lay an insidious fear. What if all these progressive ideas disintegrated under the weight of the past? Would he and his father be ready to face the repercussions of change? A sharp realization hit him. Developing this app might be easier than changing hearts and minds. Yet, as they animatedly brainstormed ideas, he sensed a shift. The air was ripe with transformation. "I know what we need to do next," Jake announced suddenly, his voice steadied by clarity he hadn't expected. "We need a test run. Let us explore the reaction of real customers before fully diving in." His father met his gaze. A mixture of apprehension and anticipation mirrored back at him. "You think they'll be open to it?" "I think they'll surprise us," Jake replied, determined. As they created a plan to engage their customers in this new chapter, Jake felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. The balance of change and legacy was achievable not just for the shop but for their relationship, and maybe, just maybe, for who he was becoming in this process. The evening wore on with collaborative energy bouncing between them, but the shadow of hesitation still lingered. As Jake left, he knew that this was only the beginning. He was off to face the world, stepping further into his identity as both mechanic and innovator. But as he stood by his old pickup, looking back at the glimmer of the workshop lights, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were at the precipice of something monumental. What would customer feedback reveal? Would they embrace change, or cling to the familiarity of the past? Only tomorrow would tell. The next morning, the sun barely peeked over the horizon, casting a soft glow on the workshop. Jake arrived early, anticipation swirling in his gut, like a complex engine revving up. Today would be the day they took a step toward unveiling their app to customers. Yet, a twinge of unease gnawed at him. Would the feedback be constructive or devastating? Before the first customers trickled in, Jake and his father huddled at the workbench, their conversation crackling with a mix of nervous energy and determination. "We'll present it as an enhancement," Jake said, his fingers tapping the screen of his tablet. "This isn't just an app. It's about keeping them connected to their cars and our service." His father adjusted his glasses, his brow still thick with uncertainty. "And what if they just see it as another gimmick? We've never shied away from our personal touch. We want just because we're adding tech doesn't mean we're losing that. It's all about balance." The conviction in Jake's voice surprised him, but he had to believe it. He stared at the tablet, imagining an audience of familiar faces before him, craving connection as much as he did. As the first supporters, the shop's loyal customers began to appear, Jake's heart raced with both hope and anxiety. Each face brought memories of past services, exchanges of laughter and camaraderie. This made the stakes tangible. They were more than just numbers, they were part of a community. "Jake, is that you?" called Sam, a middle-aged mechanic with salt and pepper hair and a warm smile. "What's this new gadget of yours?" Jake's breath caught for a moment. "It's not a gadget, Sam. It's an app we've created. It allows you to track your car's service status in real time. He felt empowered, sharing his vision clearly even if doubts still shadowed him. An app? Sam squinted, a hint of skepticism lacing his tone. What do we need that for? Jake took a deep breath, stepping closer, allowing the personal connection to ground him. Think of it this way. You'll know exactly what is happening with your car while you're at work or on the go. It brings our service right to your pocket without losing that face-to-face bond. Some customers exchanged glances, and uncertainty rippled through the group. Were they too entrenched in the past to embrace the future? Let us go ahead and try it, Leah suggested brightly, activating the demo on Jake's tablet. I'll walk you through it. As she guided a small group through the app's features, Jake observed their reactions closely. Initially hesitant, they began to lean in, engaging more as the cold cynicism gradually melted away. Questions turned to discussion, and Jake fed off their enthusiasm, interjecting his insights alongside Leah's design explanations. Yet, lurking in his mind was the same question: what would happen if they were met with resistance? What if this transformation disrupted the very core of their customer relationships? When they finished the demo, a palpable silence cloaked the room. Jake's heart thudded painfully inside his chest. Then a hand shot up. It was Annie, the owner of a vintage Jaguar. I think this is great, honestly. It's like knowing my car's diary, but I do still want to chat with you when I come in. It's comforting. Jake felt an incremental weight lift. Exactly. The app isn't here to replace the relationship we've built. It's merely another layer. Encouragement threaded through the crowd, and finally, feedback began to surge forth. Yet, while relief washed over him, another thought lingered. What if this was merely a spark? Moments like these could just be fleeting. He needed to hold on to this momentum and find a way to solidify the reception. Hours slipped by, blending excitement and earnest discussions. By the end of the day, even Jake's father had begun to warm up to the possibilities, smiles trailing on his face amidst the chatter. As they concluded the day with a collective sense of accomplishment, Jake felt a thrilling mixture of pride and unresolved tension. They had broken ground, but it was only a taste of what lay ahead. Just as Jake was about to leave, his phone buzzed. A notification flashed across the screen, an email from a potential investor intrigued by their model. The words, "We'd like to discuss funding opportunities," echoed in his mind. The thrill of opportunity elevated his heart rate. This was the moment he had long envisioned. But as the weight of upcoming responsibilities settled over him, he questioned if he was equipped for the challenges that funding could bring. Deep down, Jake understood that big changes loomed on the horizon. Could he balance innovation with the nurturing of their roots, not just for their business but for his own identity? As he gazed at the shop's lights flickering in the dusk, he knew they stood at a decisive moment. Determined yet anxious, he willed himself to begin charting this new course. How would he prepare for the inevitable disruptions that lay ahead? Only time would tell. Jake sat on the edge of his bed, the glow from his phone illuminating his anxious expression. The email from the potential investor reverberated in his mind, each word echoing the promise of change and the weight of expectation. Could he really harness this opportunity? His fingers trembled slightly as he contemplated his next move, the bright screen reflecting his uncertainty. The following morning, he returned to the workshop early, fueled by a mingling sense of excitement and dread. His father was already there, tinkering with an engine as the scent of oil and metal filled the air. Jake's heart sank a bit. He would have to tell him about the investor. Would he share his father's apprehensions, or continue to nurture his vision? "Dad," Jake began, swallowing hard. "I got an email last night. A potential investor wants to meet with us." The words hung heavy in the air. His father paused, wiping his hands on a rag. "That's great news, isn't it?" His voice was laced with cautious optimism, but the furrow of his brow revealed deeper concerns. "What does that mean for us?" "It means we could get funding for the app, maybe even expand our services," Jake explained, trying to maintain his composure even as he felt the backdraft of anxiety swirl around him. But you're worried it'll change how we operate. The touch we have with our customers." His father's voice softened, as if he could peer into Jake's internal battle. Nodding, Jake felt shaken. There was no denying the fragility of their connection with the community. Could he risk that for the sake of progress? I am. What if they don't understand our mission? What if we lose what makes our business unique? I see your concerns, son, but here's the thing. His father placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Growth doesn't mean we have to lose ourselves. This resonated with Jake, igniting a flicker of clarity. It was not just about the app or potential revenue, but it was about redefining their relationship with their clients while keeping their foundational values. Instead of resisting change, they could shape it. Okay, he decided, firming his resolve. I'll meet with the investor, but I'll make it clear that we're committed to our community. Days passed, buzzing with preparation for the meeting. Jake crafted presentations and rehearsed answers to potential questions, each session revealing his insecurities and capabilities. The process unveiled hidden strengths, his adeptness at articulating ideas and articulating visions, balancing personal anecdotes with data-backed arguments. It eventually gave rise to an unexpected confidence, yet with the growing confidence came nagging doubts. Just as Jake felt ready, his mind returned to the moments of doubt that surfaced each time he faced the potential of success. Could he truly juggle the demands of growth while nurturing the core values that his father infused into the business? The night before the meeting, Jake lay awake, scrutinizing the swirling thoughts that plagued him. His heart raced. He kept replaying the scenarios in his mind. What if he botched the pitch? What if the investor asked questions he couldn't answer? He forced himself to breathe deeply, channeling his fear into opportunity instead. He could no longer be confined by the fear of failure. Now was the time to seize growth, even if it felt daunting. Morning arrived, and Jake dressed meticulously, the weight of impending decision coiling tight in his stomach. With every step towards a meeting, he reminded himself of their mission, not to betray their roots but to enrich them, to bridge the gap between traditional service and modern innovation. As he strode into the cafe, where they had arranged to meet, the investor's profile loomed large in his mind. Jake's voice would be his armor against doubt. His vision for the app's potential would be his beacon of conviction. But just as he spotted the investor at their designated table, another notification lit up his phone, a message from Annie, the vintage Jaguar owner, containing a critical piece of feedback about their app. His heart sank. The moment had arrived, but the spotlight brightly shone on both opportunity and challenge. How would this meeting unfold? Would he be able to navigate the treacherous waters of business and maintain the values he held dear? Jake took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown. The moment of truth had arrived, but little did he know, it would lead him further down a path of unexpected revelations. Jake felt the pull of anticipation and dread entwined as he approached the investor. The air was thick with the aroma of fresh coffee, but his focus remained elsewhere. He could feel the weight of Annie's feedback lingering in his mind, battling for attention against the vital task at hand. The message had resonated with his commitment to quality, yet it demanded immediate action, a crucial adjustment before the meeting. Jake, the investor called, snapping him back to reality. He straightened his posture, swallowing any lingering doubt. The investor's presence intensified the stakes. Let us dive in, shall we? As the conversation began, Jake kicked into gear, narrating his vision for the app. He spoke of the functionality, how it would refine customer engagement, and how it could elevate their services. With each word, he fought to balance enthusiasm with professionalism, but the investor's facial expressions were hard to read. He leaned back, pensively tapping his fingers. You seem passionate, Jake, but can you manage what this growth will demand? It's exciting, but it's a lot, especially if you're trying to keep your original touch. The question struck home. Jake felt the familiar tinge of anxiety flare, yet the earlier discussion with his father sparked a flicker of resolve. Growth will change things, yes, but it doesn't have to change who we are. The app is a tool for connecting more deeply with our customers, not just a profit engine. I want us to maintain that relationship while we innovate. If anything, I want to deepen it. The investor raised an eyebrow. That's a strong stance. But you have to understand, the industry is cutthroat. Will you stand by your story when the pressure mounts? Jake took a deep breath, considering the real crux of his journey. His mind flickered to all the overlooked challenges he had faced. The late nights in the workshop, the messy trials with their first prototypes, the moments of exhaustion when doubts clawed at him. He realized he had already endured pressures before they had even begun scaling their business. "I've worked hard alongside my father to build something meaningful," Jake said, the conviction flowing freely. "Our identity is rooted in our customer relationships. If we lose that, we lose everything. In fact, I think those challenges make us more resilient." There was a charged silence, the investor's gaze piercing. Jake felt vulnerable yet strong, a juxtaposition that had become familiar since the moment he received that email. The weight of responsibility pushed him to the brink, but he held steady, realizing this was another step in his evolution, not just for the app, but for himself. "All right," the investor finally replied, a smirk creeping on his face. "You've given me something to think about. But I need to see a strategy that supports this philosophy. I need to know you can execute under pressure while nurturing your values. Can you do that?" Jake's heart raced, and the gravity of the moment settled in his core. Trying to project confidence, he nodded. "Yes, I can. In fact, I believe it's essential for the success of our partnership." The meeting continued, shifting from the pitch to deeper discussions about future steps, foundational strategies, and the commitments required to maintain their ethos in the face of inevitable pressure. But amidst that dialogue, Jake felt something unravel within himself, a revelation about his determination to embody the bridge between innovation and tradition. As he stepped out of the meeting, Jake realized his journey was not just about developing an app, it was about advocating the very essence of his values amidst changing tides. This was no mere business decision. It was a testament to his identity. But just then, another message pinged on his phone, this time from his father. The urgency in his dad's voice was palpable, hinting at a troubling incident that had unfolded at the workshop while he was away. Jake's heart twisted with concern. What had happened while he was chasing aspirations? He faced not only the weight of potential success ahead, but also the reality of what he had left behind. Would this lead to a fractured relationship or a stronger bond through shared trials? The balance of his personal and professional life had never seemed so precarious, and the path forward was shrouded in uncertainty. Jake's mind raced as he hurried out of the cafe, the enticing scent of coffee fading behind him. The weight of the investor's questions lingered in his thoughts, battling with the anxiety swelling inside him from his father's urgent message. With each step, the tightness in his chest grew. What could have possibly happened at the workshop? Was the legacy he had built alongside his father at risk? Navigating through the bustling streets, people flowed around him, blissfully unaware of the turmoil that lingered within him. Jake's focus flickered between his personal life and his ambitions. He needed to be present for his father now, not just a son but a partner and a support in the face of troubling challenges. But how could he juggle the two? Arriving at the workshop, Jake felt a tingle of dread running down his spine. The physical location, his birthplace of innovation, now felt foreign, weighed down by uncertainty. The doors creaked open, revealing a scene that snapped him out of his whirlwind of thoughts. The workshop was in disarray. Tools lay strewn across the floor, and a few of the workstations remained unoccupied. His father's back was turned as he spoke in hushed tones with one of the employees, their faces etched with concern.
"Dad,"
Jake called out, striding towards them, his heart pounding against his ribcage. His father turned, and the moment their eyes met, Jake noticed the worry carved deep into the older man's features. "Jake, I'm glad you're here," his father said, relief washing over his expression. Yet it was a fleeting sentiment, marred by the issue they faced. "What happened?" Jake asked, urgency clawing at his insides. "There was an accident with one of the prototypes, a malfunction in the manufacturing process," his father explained, voice strained but steady. "It could set us back significantly, both in time and funds. I thought we were close to finalizing the design for the investors, but now." He trailed off, the unsaid fears hanging heavily in the air. A surge of frustration washed over Jake. They had put in countless hours to keep everything on track. "Can we fix it?" he pushed, fighting to keep his voice steady. We need to assess the damage first. I'll be honest, it might take longer than expected, his father admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. But we can't let it derail everything we've built. Jake's thoughts raced, weaving through the implications of this setback. Pressure mounted from all sides: the investor, his father's aspirations, and the uncertain future of their business. Yet within this turmoil, a flicker of determination sparked to life. Dad, we can turn this around. Let's bring the team together, figure out what went wrong, and communicate transparently with the investor. If we present our resilience as a strength, it could even work in our favor, Jake proposed, his voice steadying as he considered the possibilities. His father's brow furrowed for a moment, weighing the suggestion. It's risky, Jake. What if they lose faith in us? Or what if they see how we handle adversity? We've overcome challenges before. This is just another trial to prove our worth, Jake shot back, his conviction rising like a tide. As they rallied the team to diagnose the problem, Jake felt a surge of capability. In those moments, he recognized that his journey transcended individual ambitions. It was about solidarity and weaving together paths in both life and business. Confidence swelled as they uncovered the error and overlooked calibration during the prototype phase. It would require long nights to rectify, but they had each other. Together, they strategized, shared ideas, and lit up the working space with hope and renewed energy. Hours passed, and the stressful atmosphere gradually morphed into one charged with purpose and camaraderie. They were in it together, facing a daunting task, but the struggle bonded them, deepening the very relationships Jake valued. Just as the team began to make progress, Jake's phone buzzed again, this time with an unexpected message from the investor. The words were terse yet potent. I need an update, and I need it now. Jake felt the familiar tightness return, his resolve wavering for just a moment. Would this commitment to transparency and resilience pay off, or would they be crushed under the weight of their own ambitions? His sense of urgency ignited once more. He turned to his father and the team, adrenaline coursing through his veins. They were on the verge of a breakthrough, but he had to find a way to keep the investor on their side. The crossroads they faced now required not just their innovation but also their unwavering integrity. With a deep breath, Jake composed a response, words carefully selected. The moment had come to convey their struggles and victories. This was about facing the boiling point head-on. But as he typed, an underlying fear gnawed at him. Would his attempt to maintain their values truly be understood by those who measured success in numbers alone? And in that realization, Jake knew that the next chapter of his personal and professional journey hinged on more than just trials and triumphs. It would demand a confrontation with the very nature of their partnership with the investor. What would he choose? To protect the essence of their vision, or to risk everything for the sake of growth? The decision loomed, and time was running out. With the sun setting on the horizon, Jake sat in front of his laptop, the light dimming as he wrestled with his thoughts. The message from the investor replayed in his mind, hanging heavy with the weight of their journey. Yet, rather than feeling overwhelmed, a newfound clarity washed over him. He paused, reflecting on the turmoil of the last few weeks. Jake had stood on the precipice of change, navigating a turbulent path between honoring his family's legacy and forging a new, proactive identity through innovation. They had faced setbacks: his father's firm resistance, myriad doubts from customers, an unfortunate accident impeding their progress. But through this, he had emerged with a firm grasp of purpose, anchored by a vision that entwined technology with the heart of their craft. Dad, he called out, his voice steady, it's time I make our story clear not just to the investor but to ourselves. With each keystroke, he poured his heart into the email. He articulated not just the challenges they faced but the resilience and dedication they consistently demonstrated. This wasn't just about funding, it was about culture, relationships, and integrity, values rooted deep in their history. Sending the email felt like setting a stone in a river, sending ripples of change across the waters of doubt. When Jake turned away from the screen, he locked eyes with his father, who was still working diligently on the repairs. A sense of pride welled up within Jake. We've achieved so much already, he said, stepping closer. This setback? It's just part of the journey. If we push through and stay true to who we are, we can elevate our brand beyond expectations together. For the first time, his father paused and met his gaze, surprise mingled with hope. You think they really understand? They will see how we face challenges, how we carry this legacy forward. If we commit to transparency and resolve, they'll trust us, Jake replied, firm in his belief. Time passed, filled with numerous discussions and plans that brought unity among Jake, his father, and the team. They repaired the prototype, educated themselves on the industry's latest technological advancements, and forged a clear narrative that intertwined tradition with innovation. By opening dialogue about their struggles with the investor, they transformed obstacles into testimony showing that resilience breeds trust and innovation. As the meeting day approached again, Jake felt a surge of confidence. He had spent the last few days preparing a new presentation, one that highlighted not only their technical prowess but also the stories of their customers, the very people who resonated with the values he held dear. When Jake and his father walked into the meeting, the air brimming with an unshakable bond, they were no longer just a business looking for funds. They were a family, a dynamic partnership armed with a commitment to growth rooted in authenticity. The investor instantly sensed the shift. They weren't just numbers or trends to Jake and his father, but relationships that mattered. By the end of the meeting, something extraordinary unfolded. The investor was captivated not merely by the app, but by the heart behind it. You too have transformed your challenges into strengths, the investor remarked, a smile spreading across their face. I'm in. Let us bring this to life together. Triumph coursed through Jake. The culmination of his endeavors, his willingness to forge a path, advocating for values even amid turmoil, had resonated in a powerful way. He had conquered not just the hesitation of others, but the shadow of his self-doubt. As they left the investor's office, Jake felt a complete transformation, a full-circle moment redefining both his professional and personal identity. He had proven his competence, demonstrated unwavering resolve in the face of complexity, and carved out a solid confidence that now stood as the bedrock of his legacy moving forward. Looking at his father, the relief in their shared smile illuminated the complexity of their journey. It wasn't simply about an app or revenue streams. It was about rewriting the narrative between generations, to embrace change without forsaking what truly mattered. With excitement brewing for the future and a clear mission ahead, Jake Sullivan stepped into a new chapter of opportunity, knowing he had overcome challenges not only to reshape a business, but to rediscover the profound essence of family. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that showcase triumph against the odds. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support amazing personal overcoming narratives. Comment your reactions and theories about this inspiring conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Don't wait even one more second to create connections through these powerful stories of change.